On the Shrewd Dudes podcast Thursday live stream, we are going to talk about a few different things. In our rants of the week, not the rants of the week. We start with this week in satire.
What
this
are
week
you
in
thinking,
satire?
bro?
I know, so out of place.
Admonish.
This week in satire, we're going to talk about a surprising study that reveals that half of Joe Biden's followers on Twitter are real.
Oh, what?
Oh my goodness! Everyone was expecting much lower.
Did not see that coming.
Yep. In our rants of the week, we're going to talk about how the federal government is permissive towards the crimes of minorities.
What?
And trying to cover up the crimes that happen. But if a white person commits a crime,
holy God, I can't do that.
In our It's a Trap, it's back. We are going to talk about the WHO Pandemic Treaty. It's going to be interesting, so don't miss out on that conversation.
It's going to be spicy.
And then we're going to talk about Jason Kenney resigning. Because that was just fantastic news yesterday. And then in our douche of the week, close out the show, we're going to talk about a woman who is a pastor and a school board member and an author who claims that it would be better for brown babies to be aborted than adopted by white evangelicals. And that abortion is an act of love. Oh, yeah. Full on crazy pants.
Silly person. Silly people down there.
Yeah. So all of that and more on the Shrewd Dudes podcast. Okay, we're back with another Thursday live stream.
Bringing it back. Bringing it back.
And the last time we had a Thursday live stream, it was the beginning of the Leafs woes. But now the Leafs woes are over because the NHL is corrupt.
Steven still hasn't gotten over it. He's still sad.
You know why, though. Everybody who watches the show knows why.
Oh, you know why. They got robbed.
They did. Hard. They got robbed hard.
That was a sad day.
Yeah,
Leafland.
Mm-hmm. We were mourning. We were plotting the death of refs. We got to a dark place.
Yeah. Yes, we did. We went to a very dark place that way.
Yeah, we did. But this week has been better.
Yeah, this week was better. Apparently, the Battle of Alberta game was quite the.
It was a gong show,
right?
9-6.
Super high scoring. Yeah,
like
crazy stuff.
If that continues, then it'd be like, good goaltending is apparently hard to find.
Let's go for double digits, bro.
Well, apparently that's going to happen in the States. They're talking about double digits for gas prices.
Oh yeah, that's right.
$10 a gallon.
Yeah, they're predicting it. Well, not predicting it, but they're like, well, there's a high chance we're going to get there, so might as well start, updating the infrastructure for that.
Yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
$10 a gallon. Yikes.
It'd be terrible.
Then again, in what is it, like October of this year, our carbon tax is going to make fuel prices go up another 30 cents per liter.
Mm-hmm.
Damn you, Trudeau.
It's almost like this is somehow intentional.
Yeah.
Like they have some kind of a plan of why they want.
They have a plan. We don't.
Right?
We really don't. My goodness, we don't.
Go figure.
Yep. But we are going to talk about all of that and more. So let's just jump right in. But before we jump right in, for those who are watching live, of course, do not forget to share this content, share this video, comment on it. If you have any questions, if you have any kind of ongoing commentary, we'll try and respond to everything as it comes up. And we're going to talk about, at the end of the show, we're going to talk about potential methods of marketing. So keep it going.
Let's do it. Let's make this happen.
But in order to make it happen, we do actually have to cover things. So let's talk about This Week in Satire. So, surprising story. Surprising study reveals that half of Joe Biden's Twitter followers are real. My goodness.
What?
So, a recent study has audited Joe Biden's Twitter followers to determine whether or not they are, in fact, real. The results have left the world stunned. As everyone discovered, half of his followers are somehow real people.
I'm shocked. Shocked, I tell you.
Shocked.
Well, not shocked.
11 millions of Biden's followers are real? That seems high, said Mike Vanders, a social media analyst. The American people can't even follow what he has to say, much less follow him on Twitter. According to sources, most experts had estimated that maybe a dozen or so of the president's followers were real. And that the remaining 22 million were all fake accounts designed to make Biden look good. Mm-hmm. We're all shocked that this bombshell report claiming 51.7%, very close to Jason Kenney's approval rating, of Biden's followers are actual breathing humans, said a Twitter auditor. We assumed that maybe he had a couple of followers from his family, maybe a few unhinged leftists. We truly never imagined him having followers on this scale. For the most diehard supporters, the revelation caused them to question the claim that he is actually the most popular president of all time. Many found themselves wondering how it's possible for a man to get 81 million votes if only 11 people follow him on Twitter. At publishing time, the auditors discovered they had just accidentally reviewed Biden's votes.
Oh, that is spicy right there.
Spicy memes for spicy teens.
That's well done.
My goodness, that was such a good line. Woo! Babylon B wrecking it again.
Oh, these guys know how.
These guys just dropping bombs.
Mm-hmm. That's a mic drop moment right there.
Oh, mic drop moment hard. I had a mic drop moment a little bit. Talking to some radical bro Bordy. It's just like, stop trying to justify your misogynist beliefs. And I'm like, I don't have to try that hard to justify them. That's like common sense and decency. Try it sometime.
Oh! Walk out of there. She's going to have to go to the burn ward because she's just got smoke. Burn hard.
No, but in all honesty, yes. 50% of the POTUS followers, or at least according to this report, were fake.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, Twitter is a huge problem, and we were talking about this a little bit on Tuesday, and this could affect Elon Musk's takeover.
Well, it could make the price cheaper.
Yes, it could. Or it could void the whole deal because Twitter's been dishonest.
Yep.
And then the SEC was apparently like investigating. It's a whole convoluted thing.
It's a mess.
But yeah, essentially Twitter misrepresented, and everybody knows that their representation and claim that 5% of users were bots was completely out there.
Yeah. No, and the thing, like, thankfully, there's people out there who know a lot more about this stuff. Like, Tim Cassar was talking about it, and like the amount of stuff that I was learning as they were talking about it, I'm like, man, I didn't know that. Like, they have like bot farms.
Yeah, they do.
Like, they literally have like entire operations where they basically create like just hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of fake accounts. And so I found out, I'm like, oh, so like if you're on Twitter and you get like a stream of negative comments that are all very simple and basic and all that, like it's like, oh, you're wrong. It's like, oh, you're stupid. Oh, you're ugly and all that kind of stuff. It's like, well, actually, there's a very good chance that a lot of those people could be not real people. That it's almost designed by nature to do that. So, like Elon Musk said straight up, he's like, yep. One of the things he wanted to clean up when he came into Twitter was the out of control, bots. Because they really do not try genuinely to stop the amount of bots that are on the service.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Oh no, it's just an interesting person that I was not expecting.
Oh.
Shit was like reacted to the post, and I'm like, okay. I haven't talked to you in a long time. But
all right.
If you're watching, Steph's Uncle Jeff, hello.
Hi. Feel free to ask a question, man.
Yeah, totally.
Bring it.
But
we ain't got no shame.
Just entertaining. I'm like, this is unexpected, but cool.
All right.
But yeah, continue. I'm just gonna continue doing some shameless promo.
Shameless plug.
Shameless plugging, exactly.
Mm-hmm. So what are we talking about today, man? Once
I'm done doing some shameless promo, then we are going to talk. We're going to do our rants of the week.
Okay. Well, let me just finish up on the Biden story. When it comes to Biden and and Twitter, like I one of the things that I found really interesting when I was finding this out is that a lot of the there was like the shenanigans that happened after like the deal was signed, that tons of like leftist accounts, like, you know, from everywhere from like Katy Perry to like Joe Biden to all these other ones, they lost a crap ton of followers.
Mm-hmm.
And then a lot of conservatives suddenly saw a massive uptick in the amount of followers. And then you also saw a whole bunch of conservative accounts suddenly get reinstated. Now, I wasn't able to verify this, but it sounded like accounts like Charlie Kirk and Tucker Carlson and all these other ones were reinstated spontaneously. But it shows that Twitter, and then couple that with the revelations from Project Veritas that, you know, they clearly do not operate in good faith over there. They're clearly like extremely aggressively biased, and they have no problem like acting in bad faith to try to, like, you know, like shut down conservatives and to create an echo chamber and all that kind of stuff. So I have no idea right now if Elon Musk is going to complete the purchase, because he has the ability. And I think the last thing I heard was the board said that we're going to make sure he goes ahead with it.
Yeah, now we're going to enforce it. We didn't want him to before, but now that he's basically uncovered our bots, it's like, just do it. Please, please, please.
Yeah, it's too late now. We're going to lose a crap ton of money.
We can't hide this anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So, yep.
I am encouraged to hear that like a lot of high-profile Twitter employees have already been fired.
Yes.
And that there's more coming.
Yeah. Oh man, that one guy in that video where he's just like, yeah, we got this email about like not talking. Like, look at what it says. And the reporter is just like, who is this Project Veritas? And it's like, oh, it's Project Veritas. And they're like going to have undercover reporters. And like, if I had met you anything other than organically, then I would be questioning everything about you. And it's just like,
oh, bro. Like, this is what happens when you think.
Oh, dude.
That's what happens when you think with your ding dong and not with your.
That's with your brain.
Mm-hmm.
My goodness, you got screwed.
So out of touch.
But speaking of those that are out of touch, let's talk about Trudeau and the left pushing a narrative.
That was a solid segue.
I know.
That was well done. It was buttery smooth. That was like Michael Knowles smooth.
Oh. The king knows Stradamus himself. All right, let's go.
Red alert.
Yep. Always feeling good to be compared to Knowles.
Mm-hmm.
But, so, Trudeau vows to scrap mandatory minimums in the name of equity. Trudeau has said on Tuesday that his government is working hard to remove mandatory minimums to help dismantle systemic racism that targets Indigenous peoples in Canada. Among the offenses that will have their mandatory minimums removed are robbery with a firearm, extortion with a firearm, discharging a firearm, discharging a firearm with intent, and weapons trafficking.
Yep. I sense a common theme here somehow.
Yep.
Some kind of common theme.
Some kind of theme. Some kind.
What it could be.
Don't know what.
Something.
So we've made significant investments in reconciliation on a broad range of issues that has had an impact, but there's much more to do, said Trudeau during an announcement in Newfoundland and Labrador. Recent reports have just been appalling in seeing the overrepresentation, particularly of Indigenous women, in our criminal system, he said, noting that his government was moving forward with the elimination of mandatory minimums. That's a bill that's currently being debated at committee right now to make sure that we're changing the system. And as we know, mandatory minimums do lead to an overrepresentation of vulnerable and marginalized people in our criminal system. Maybe because they're criminals.
Maybe you could play the video above. He has like a video of him talking.
Oh, he does? Ooh.
Yeah.
That's horrifying.
I know. You have to listen to his voice. He's just cringing.
You pledged to address the overrepresentation of Indigenous people in federal prisons. Half the women in federal prisons are Indigenous. How do you respond to your record on the issue, and what are you going to do about it?
We have made significant investments in reconciliation on a broad range of issues that has had an impact, but as you point out, there's much more to do. Recent reports have just been appalling in seeing the overrepresentation, particularly of Indigenous women in our criminal system. That's one of the reasons why we move forward on eliminating certain.
Got the other little playground right behind them.
That's currently being debated at committee right now. To make sure that we're changing the system, and as we know, mandatory minimums do lead to a overrepresentation of vulnerable and marginalized people in our criminal system. So this is one thing we're doing, but we know there's much more to do, and we will, because tackling systemic injustice, systemic discrimination, which is real, is a long, hard work that we are committed to.
Oh boy. Okay. I had to just like a couple things that he said there are just garbage. Okay, so he is literally pulling everything from the CRT handbook.
Yep.
He's like, well, we're seeing all this overrepresentation of Indigenous people in our prisons, and like that's bad. And I'm like, that is basically the carbon copy of the argument from the Democrats in the States that they basically say, well, if there's any kind of like disparity in outcomes in any system or in any place, that it's automatically racism that caused it. So if there's way more black men or black women in prisons, well, it's because the system's racist. If there's way too many Indigenous men or women in prisons, like, well, the system's racist. That's the problem. Yep. And so they have to fix it. Ooh. So here's the problem with that thinking, is that you're making complete assumptions about why the people, why the outcomes are like that, without actually looking into the actual reasons. Is it possible that they're getting more Indigenous people, more black people in prisons because they commit more crimes disproportionately, than other races? Probably. Maybe you should look into that. But here's the ultimate problem with that. Obviously, the basis for this whole thing and the basis for trying to lower the crime, the punishments, is that they use racism as a way of trying to justify going easy on criminals. And the U.S. has already done this. The U.S. like cities like San Francisco, like L.A., like New York. They've basically made both like petty crimes almost non-existent. Like I think they changed it to like $900. If you steal under $900 and something worth of stuff, then you won't get charged. What was the outcome? Well, more criminals.
More criminals are stealing $900.
It's like, crap. Suddenly crime goes up. Then you start to like say, oh, we're not going to prosecute people for gun crimes. I wonder what's going to happen. More gun crimes. Because if you're a criminal and you don't feel like there's any consequences to your actions, guess what? You're going to create more crime. So instead of actually creating a more equitable system, he's creating the conditions for more crime and, like, ultimately worse outcomes for everyone, not just for one group, but for everyone. And at the same time, our prime minister is also creating he's basically rewarding criminals by eliminating minimum sentence. So basically saying the justice system is not going to punish people who actually commit crimes. People who use a gun, who like go into a store, they fire a gun at the shop owner, and maybe they don't hit them. It's like, oh, no crime there, no crime, it's all good. But legal and legitimately law-abiding citizens who are actually the kind of people that you do want to be armed are the ones you're punishing. And our government has basically declared war on legal gun owners, and they've basically, like, they're releasing criminals from prison and from any consequences. So they're creating the perfect conditions so that we have more gun crime that they will then use to justify more gun control. You see how this is all totally on purpose?
Yep.
Not accidental. This is not like, whoops, we didn't see that coming. This is all completely purposeful legislation. And it's brutal how they're doing this. Right, Steven?
Oh, yeah. And of course, like, the motives that they're pushing. They're pushing for, okay, we want, like, softer leniency on actual criminals, and we want to punish those who are not criminals. And, like, people were saying it's like, oh, like, the biggest threats in North America is white supremacy and Republicans.
Mm-hmm.
That's nonsense. Even though the media, of course, we know how much the media was highlighting, was focusing the Buffalo shooter, but not much was spent at all talking about this Dallas shooting. So a shooting at an Asian-owned hair salon in Dallas is being investigated as a federal hate crime. They believe, local authorities say they believe the attack is connected to 2 earlier attacks on other Asian-run businesses. So the FBI's field office in Dallas, the Department of Justice's Civil Rights Division, and the U.S. Attorney's Office announced the federal hate crime investigation in a statement Monday. This is an ongoing investigation, and apparently they're not allowed to comment further at this time, but the girlfriend of this guy said the Dallas shooting suspect feared Asian Americans.
Yeah, so it was motivated by hatred towards Asians.
Yes. He said, the girlfriend told police that he has delusions that Asian Americans are trying to harm him. An arrest warrant affidavit states he faces 3 charges of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. He's being held on a $300,000 bond, according to jail records that do not list an attorney for him. So the Dallas police chief, it's like, it says is it an issue of racism, mental health, or both? Oh, it's too early to tell. Right now, it's an issue of hate. It's a hate crime. However that manifests itself, I'm not here to say that. I can tell you that I know our community sees it as a hate crime. I see it as a hate crime, and so do our men and women. Well, we know via the girlfriend and via this guy's previous assault charges against Asian Americans that this guy absolutely despises Asians and has stated so many times, even publicly. So this guy is an even more, it's almost even more of a clear-cut case than the Buffalo shooting. Yes, the Buffalo shooting was a clear-cut case of racism.
Well, here's the thing, normally you and I and a lot of people on the conservative media, we always try to point out something that's really obvious. There's a clear bias in the narrative that the media always do. That whenever something happens, they look at the story, they're like, can we use this to our narrative, our message, the thing that we want people to believe? And if it does, they'll amplify it and it'll be national news. If it doesn't, it'll just stay local news, or they might mention it and then just kind of walk past it like nothing happened. Now, the thing is, there are incredibly comparable examples, like the Buffalo shooting, which we covered on Tuesday, and I recommend if you want to see we have a whole little thing on it. On Tuesday, we talked about the Buffalo shooting. The most equivalent example or counter of the Buffalo shooting was the Waukesha, the massacre that happened in Waukesha. Waukesha. Okay, so these are 2 separated only by a few months, because the Waukesha one was when was it, Stephen? That was
year?
December,
early November, I think.
Yeah, it was not that long, a couple months ago.
Yeah.
So Waukesha, let's compare. Waukesha, you had a black supremacist, a person who thought white people need to die, and he literally drove his vehicle
his SUV into a crowd of people. And then swerved to hit more people.
Yes, he hit loads of people. The president did not go and visit, the victims. He just sent his wife. I was too busy. At no point did he ever go. The
no
media,
effort whatsoever.
The media tried their hardest to cover up that he was black. And they, of course, they're like, oh, we don't know the motive. What possible motive could he have? And for a while, they even tried to hide the race of the guy. Whereas, take that and contrast it with the Buffalo shoot, the Buffalo thing. That guy immediately, the second it happened, his face was all over every single news story. Everyone was saying, this is a hate crime. This is white supremacy. And then President Biden made a declaration immediately. You could not have a more equivalent example. Now, here, this is another example of how the media completely and totally distorts the truth. Now, this happened in Dallas. There was a black man. He attacked a spa. I think it was a spa, wasn't it? A spa of the women there.
The Korean one.
The Korean one. So in Dallas,
I think it was a salon. But yeah,
a salon. a Korean salon. He went there intentionally because he hated Koreans or Asian
Asians
Americans
in general, yeah.
Okay, so he went there intentionally to shoot Asians there.
Yep.
Okay, clearly hate-filled intention.
Crazy
now,
dude.
Now contrast that with the shooter that happened, I think, about a year ago in Atlanta.
Yep.
So an NBC News story. This is I pulled out not that long ago. An NBC News story. An Atlanta spa shooter who targeted Asian women. So here we go. Equivalence. You have two shooters who targeted Asian Americans on purpose. One of them, the Dallas one, the one that happened recently, this past week, they tried everything they could. I went through 7 stories before I finally saw a picture of him.
Yep.
Nobody would put a picture of him.
Mm-hmm.
It was nope, just even his name. This guy, the day of the shooting, when he went in there and shot all these people, his picture was on every single article. Every one. They had his picture. Picture. Why? Because they want to present the message, the biggest threat to America and to everyone in America is white people, and particularly white supremacists.
Yep.
Which, again, is a completely, hyperbolic, over the top. They're trying to make it sound like they're the boogeyman when the actual, amount of white supremacists are almost non-existent.
Yep.
And yet they want you to feel like this is the threat to everyone, and white people are the bad ones. It's the boogeyman.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And
absolutely
so you have the media. This is why I get upset with people who say, the media is not biased. I'm like, give me a break. Here you have two perfect equivalent examples. The Dallas shooter versus the Atlanta shooter. 2 people, same crime. Obviously, the details are different, but they're trying to shoot. They will go in there to shoot Asians. The white guy basically gets his face plastered as national news. The black guy, let's just kind of forget it.
Let's make sure that people memory hold this.
Yeah, and this was only featured in the local news. This wasn't in the national news. And then you have the Buffalo shooter. He goes national, and they're talking about, oh my goodness, look at how bad this is. These white supremacists are the worst. And then the Waukesha, guy who killed more people, believe it or not.
Yep.
Oh, he was a non-story. It was actually a minivan who did that, right?
Yeah,
so
they were saying that it was a vehicle that drove into a crowd of people. It's like, we don't have self-driving cars yet.
Yeah, I know. It's the Tesla car. That's what it was.
Yep. Tesla self-driving cars already murderous.
Bring all that back to Canada. Okay? What happened in Canada that launched the entire attack on law-abiding citizens? There was an attack. I think it was Quebec. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm not sure if you remember, Stephen. There was an attack. A guy dressed up like a police officer. He went on a wild shooting spree. A bunch of people.
Yep.
Justin Trudeau, never letting a crisis go to waste, used that as the justification to basically try to ban a massive amount of guns all over Canada. Now, do these things happen all the time in Canada? Are these a humongous problem? No. This was a one-off, and it's obviously crazy, but it's rare. But Justin Trudeau used that as a springboard to try to basically argue, the problem is the guns, not the bad guys, the guns. And so we're going to ban, we're going to basically try to ban a giant swath of guns and try to punish well-meaning Canadians. But we're going to, at the same time, the bait and switch, we're going to create we're going to remove minimums for people who commit gun crimes.
Yep.
So that more gun crime will happen.
Specifically focusing on a select group.
Yeah.
That, unfortunately, here in Canada, the highest proportionality of crimes is amongst the Indigenous. It's an unfortunate reality.
It is.
And nobody in the right mind should wish that it's true. But it is true. And instead of saying, to enforce the cause of equity, we want to remove mandatory minimums. It's no. We should be making jail crimes or jailable offenses have steeper jail times. And, of course, what we should also be doing is we should be saying, okay, we have a problem with the indigenous going to prison. And the states, we have a problem with the blacks going to prison. How do we address this? We can't just throw money at the problem. We need to address culture and society, because that's what inevitably is causing this heightened level of incarceration amongst these communities. And no matter how much money we throw at the problem, like Canadians have thrown hundreds of billions of dollars at Indigenous communities, and they are still the highest in terms of criminality by far. That's a problem, and this is not going to fix it. Gun control is not going to fix it. We have to address the cultural problems that are the root of the issue.
Yeah. And this is a problem I find both with Democrats and with liberals here in Canada and NDP as well. Their solution to everything is throw money at it. And they never ask whether or not the solution that they propose is actually going to solve the problem or whether or not it's going to make it worse.
Yep.
And the thing is, like, that doesn't matter. Like, you see Justin Trudeau in Parliament, he's asked about, like, well, like, look at those terrible outcomes. It's like, oh, don't blame us. Look at all the money we spent at fixing this problem.
As if it's just money. Like, well, that's an excuse. It's like, well, we spent the money on it, so clearly we were doing something. It was someone else that's at fault.
Yeah.
It's like throwing money at a problem has never solved it.
Yep.
You have to solve the underlying problems.
Yeah. And that's why I do like just for a little segue, I like Pierre Poilievre, because he actually has good ideas, legitimately good solutions that pragmatically could fix a lot of the problems that we have.
Yeah. And if you want to hear about some of the solutions, watch his interview with Jordan Peterson. It is fantastic.
Yeah. It was like
pretty
awesome.
Good video.
Did a great job.
Yep. But can't talk about this all day.
Oh no. Okay. Let's talk about something else.
Let's do the return of It's a Trap. Because we were both like, bring back It's a Trap. So let's do it. Okay. And just before we start into this, I don't know why the stream has been so back and forth. Here. Let's do this live on air.
Okay, what's going on?
Well, my streaming bitrate has been like up and down and up and down and up and down. Let's do a speed test and see how we're doing. Let's do a speed test.
I thought you had like several hundred, gigabytes worth of speed.
I should. Yeah. Let's do it.
All right.
Come on.
Let's see what we got.
Let's see what we get.
Bring it.
Because I've been dropping down to like, my stream rate has been like 0 kilobytes per second.
Get power. Boom.
Okay.
You're like 5, 6. So yeah, you're good.
This should not be an issue, but apparently it is. But anyways, let's talk about the WHO Pandemic Preparedness Treaty.
Do we have to?
Yes, we do.
Okay, fine.
Because people are buying into this nonsense.
Oh, okay.
UK Parliament, the House of Commons Library. What is the proposed preparedness treaty? So, March 2021, group of world leaders, including UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson, announced an initiative for a new treaty, a pandemic preparedness and response. It was taken to the WHO and will be negotiated, drafted, and debated by a newly established intergovernmental negotiation body. So, we don't need to talk about the WHO. If you don't know what the WHO is, please, for the love of God, do some research.
Who's the who?
Yeah. What is being proposed? This is the quote from the joint group of leaders. The main goal of this treaty would be to foster an all-of-government and an all-of-society approach, strengthening national, regional, and global capacities and resilience to future pandemics. This includes greatly enhancing international cooperation to improve, for example, alert systems, data sharing, research, and local, regional, and global production and distribution of medical and public health countermeasures such as vaccines, medicines, diagnostics, and personal protective equipment. So that all sounds wonderful. We could have a unified approach so we could fight pandemics and global health catastrophes together. In a perfect world,
so good.
This would sound amazing.
Mm.
The only problem is that there's a lot of things.
WHO is as corrupt.
WHO is as corrupt as they come, and there's a lot of things in this pandemic treaty that could really change the way that you live your life. So this is a video.
Steven, this sounds a little bit like a trap. A little bit.
Well, it is a trap. That's why this section is it's a trap. Come on.
What?
Get with the program, Danny.
What?
Get with the program.
Crazy.
So let's watch this video. This is from Ben Swan from Truth and Media, who is usually pretty good.
They do a good job.
500 companies.
What are you talking about? Why is there an ad now? Facebook! No!
This is why Facebook sucks. Mute it. Nobody wants to hear us.
Check them out today. CreateTailwind.com. So what exactly is in this treaty? It is an agreement on pandemic preparedness that would grant the WHO absolute power over global biosecurity, such as the power to implement digital identities, vaccine passports, mandatory vaccinations, travel restrictions globally, standardized medical care, and so much more. But let's be specific about what this treaty does, because it gives enormous powers to the WHO in the case of a pandemic. But it also allows for just about anything to be called a pandemic. Quote, this treaty includes 190 countries and would be legally binding. The treaty defines and classifies what is considered a pandemic, and this could consist of broad classifications, including an increase in cancers, heart conditions, strokes, etc. If a pandemic is declared, the WHO takes over the global health management of the pandemic. What's more here, the WHO would be in full control over what gets called a pandemic. They could dictate how doctors can and cannot be used, or which vaccines are approved. And this is for the entire globe, not just one country. And it gets better, because at the same moment that this treaty is being drafted, guess who's back? Bill Gates has announced the creation of a pandemic germ team that will monitor sovereign nations and decide when they need to suspend civil liberties, force people to wear masks, and to close borders. According to Gates, the global team will be made up of some 3,000 disease experts under WHO purview and will receive around $1 billion per year in funding. Look at this, quote, the team's disease monitoring experts would look for potential outbreaks. Once it spots one, germ should have the ability to declare an outbreak and work with national governments and the World Bank to raise money for the response very quickly. Product development experts would advise governments and companies on the highest priority drugs and vaccines, end quote. The WHO has further stated that countries disobeying regulations dictated by their organization through their pandemic treaty may need to be sanctioned. So, are the claims that by signing onto this treaty that Joe Biden and Boris Johnson in the UK and Justin Trudeau in Canada and other Western leaders, that they're handing off sovereignty to the WHO? Is that true? Well, it seems to be, and it doesn't seem to be understated at all, but there is good news.
Yeah, and then he talks about how you can find it in the States, so. But that's much more drastic and much more severe than what the others would have you note, what the others would have you believe.
Jeez.
Like what they're trying to claim is, oh yes, this will inevitably make things wonderful because it'll all go through the WHO, and the WHO is this wonderful beacon of prosperity and health and wonder.
But what could they possibly do wrong?
No, that's not how it works. The WHO has shown multiple times how corrupt they are. They're in bed deep, deep, deep with China. And they have shown no signs that they ever want to get out of that. Like, things are not good in the state of the WHO. And they want more power to control. Like, they want a unified response. So it won't be, well, Alberta has dropped their masks and vaccination requirements, but BC still has masks and Ontario still has vaccination. No. And it won't be, this country has this country has this. It'll be, the WHO controls it all and everyone will be under the same policy. And disagree, then the WHO will have the power to censor you, and they will have the power to put sanctions against your country if you decide to resist. That is an unheard of level of power to give to an unelected bureaucrat.
Yeah, the thing is, like, that, okay, the WHO is a really problematic institution. Number one, we know that there's a lot of funding issues with the WHO. They get an enormous amount of money from a lot of the people that stand to benefit from the things that they as the justification to basically try to ban.
Wait, can I pause this? Every time I try in response to a comment, it just
that's why you don't do it. That's why I do it. That's why
you
I'm the Facebook man.
I have to resist my urges to try and respond to Paul. I love you, Paul.
I got it.
I can't.
I'm answering Paul's question here. All right, so one problem is like with the WHO is the funding. The funding they get, a lot of it comes from China. A lot of it comes from Pfizer and a lot of these pharmaceutical companies. A lot of it comes from Bill Gates Foundation and a lot of people who are trying to push this new thing. So the funding thing makes them very susceptible to a lot of abuses. Number two, the WHO intentionally suppresses important information. There was enormous fights by all these organizations trying to get the word out that there's a lot of incredible treatments that were helping people to recover from COVID, including hydroxychloroquine, ivermectin, quercetin, vitamin D, all these things, and they were intentionally suppressing them to the detriment of almost the entire world, because there's actual things that people could have done, but no, because they wanted to push the vaccine. And then you have the problem of the WHO spreading all sorts of disinformation about all sorts of things. So the WHO, there's a reason why Trump intentionally withdrew funding from the WHO, because there was so much dirt on them that they were already showing themselves to be an incredibly corrupted and easily bought out, organization. And that's a problem. That's something you need to avoid like the plague. Okay. So now here is the real issue with this whole treaty. What has happened, and this is obviously speculation, but you can see the logic behind it. What has actually happened is that the people who are the people who orchestrated this whole thing, and we've talked about it the whole last 2 years, how this whole thing has been orchestrated. It was planned before. There was an entire conference right before the pandemic that literally laid it all out how they were planning to do it. Now that was phase one, and they wanted to see, okay, let's see how far we can get this, and that was stage one. Now they're trying to see, okay, there's a whole bunch of problems in getting this all worked out. You better believe that they're going to come back.
Yep.
In the fall or winter, coming up, they're going to try again. And there's going to be some other crazy pandemic and they're going to try to do it on a much bigger scale.
Yeah.
Now, the reason why all these countries are signing on is because they know that if they're the ones that make the rules and that make the decisions, then they're liable to their citizens. This is what happened here in Alberta. Kenny was making all these decisions, and Courtney's liable because he's like, "Oh my gosh, I have to make all these rules," and now he's paid for it. Now, however, if you have some other organization that's making the rules, and that that we have absolutely no say in what the WHO decides, then they can be like, well, we didn't make the rules. It was the WHO. WHO's making the rules. We're not. It kind of gives them the Pontius Pilate excuse. It's like, well, I'm going to wash my hands, and I'm not guilty. I haven't done anything wrong. I'm just following orders. That is what this is. And it's going to be worse than what we had before, because before you can go after your government.
Yeah.
You can make legal challenges, you can go after them in court, all these things. But if your government is following orders from the WHO, suddenly you have a lot more, the government has a lot more leeway, and they can basically say oh, well, we're not responsible. We're just following the experts, the germ community. They're the ones really responsible for everything. So this is basically taking that same the same approach that they did recently and making it global.
Yeah.
And we all know that whenever you have a giant organization, government organization, trying to basically dictate the rules for everyone, that it is a disaster. This is why communism doesn't work. Because unlike my friend Emily works here in Alberta in the healthcare in as a nurse.
Yep.
She said Alberta healthcare fell apart and became garbage the second they stopped being regional and they started being provincial.
Yep.
When one organization ruled over all of them, it all fell apart. And that's what's going to happen with the WHO. What do you think, Stephen?
Oh yeah, no, like, well, even to, and of course, like, the power of the WHO is so much more than AHS.
Oh,
Like, the power that they're granting the WHO, like, the WHO
powerful.
now is mostly just a recommendation board. Like, It's like, okay, well, we can recommend things and we can assist in, like, making sure that we acquire the requested resources and allocation of funds and materials. But if this is granted to them, they won't become a recommendation board. They will become an enforcement board.
Mm-hmm.
And their recommended measures will be, it'll basically be like giving Anthony Fauci this to the world.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure some crazy people want that, but not anybody with any sense of rationality. Anthony Fauci and a lot of these people at the WHO and a lot of people around the world they are power hungry and they are mad. And they will do whatever it takes to gain power and then retain power.
Mm-hmm.
Like, all of these people, all these public health bureaucrats that we've seen in Alberta with Dean Henshaw, in BC with Bonnie Henry, in Manitoba and Ontario, like, very few of them have actually faced the music for any one of their significant crimes that they've committed.
Mm-hmm.
And the government and the justice system has allowed all of these people to get away with it because they're basically just letting them off the hook.
Mm-hmm.
It's been so problematic.
Yeah.
And of course, like, to go a little bit further and a little bit deeper,
like really deep down the rabbit hole.
Well, not super deep down the rabbit hole, but a little down the rabbit hole. Like, here in Canada, this is from today. Feds consider digital identity and facial recognition for air travel. The government has announced it worked with airlines to consider requiring digital identity documents and biometric data like facial recognition for pre-aircraft boarding requirements. A May 14th statement published in the Canada Gazette on regulations amending the secure air travel regulations and designated provisions regulations detail how the Department of Public Safety and Emergency Preparedness discussed the proposed requirements during an air travel stakeholder exercise. So, in accordance with the regulatory plan, the secure air travel regulations will offer more options to travelers in the industry to meet pre-aircraft boarding identity verification requirements through innovation. Was also considered during the stakeholder consultation exercises. They include digitized identification documents, digital identity documents, and biometric travel documents. So,
yeah. This just sounds like they're modernizing it, but they're not. Everything, like, from a digital currency, the government has been planning to put in a digital currency. Why? Because then they can control and track and cancel whatever financial, the transactions that you make in ways that they can't do with cash. All right. Then you have the digital identity, which basically means that they can, with a push of a button, they can say you can travel or you can't travel. It's like they're basically not even trying to hide the fact that they want to move towards Chinese style social credit system. That's what they're doing. They're not. It's not even hidden. They're not even trying to hide it. They're just like, yep, pretty much. Like, I saw Candice Bergen in Parliament going after Trudeau, and she's like, here's the basic question she was asking. Every other country has, like, dropped mandates, and particularly for flying. Every other country. Like, what do we know that they don't? And then Trudeau's answer was basically like COVID's still a thing. It's like every country has dropped mandates.
Yep.
You think that these people are acting in good faith? Give me a break. Justin Trudeau is clearly following some plan because he's not following any science. Like, let's just put it out there. There's no science. He keeps saying, we're going to continue to follow the science. We're going to continue to keep people safe. You're a freaking compulsive liar. Like, the idea that anybody believes this guy anymore it's mind-blowing to me. He's a liar. He's a con artist. He's a demagogue. he's keeping these mandates of these restrictions on planes, not because of science, but because of show, because there's some further plan that they have.
Yeah.
And they're going to lay it out. And so, yeah, watch for it. In the next couple of years, they're going to start rolling out some really bad stuff because they could care less.
Oh.
They could not care less about your freedom or about your rights to travel, anything like that. It's
all just another stepping stone.
Yeah, it's an inconvenience to them. They want to turn you back into slaves.
Yeah.
And, they will if they get their way.
Yes, they will. No. Yeah, reconnection is successful. You saw my connection speed.
Yeah, I saw it.
What is going on?
YouTube also had a tough time. Oh, no, there you go. Now you're weak.
Now we're back. Thank you, everybody. Yep. Hi, we're back. Don't know what's going on. I think it's a software issue because it's not my internet. Mm-hmm. We proved that. Mm-hmm. You can't have a streaming issue if you have 700 megabytes per second. So don't give me that crap. Yeah. Anyways, moving on to something good. Biden's U.S. counter-disinformation advisor resigns after 2 months on the job.
Yeah!
The head of the Biden administration's disinformation fighting advisory group has resigned.
The wicked witch. Sorry, I can resist.
She told Reuters on Wednesday that the Department of Homeland Security said it had paused the group's activities. Nina Jankowicz, and we all heard her crazy singing, who started work as the executive director of the DHS's Disinformation Governance Board in March, said she was expecting a baby and spending time with her family is her first priority. BS.
Sure,
BS.
Sure you are.
In the fall.
Disinformation.
Yeah. I plan to continue the work I've done throughout my career building awareness of disinformation in the public sphere, working on issues related to Russia's war in Ukraine, and continuing my work related to women's online expression. Yep. Congratulations. Your organization survived a little bit longer than CNN Plus. You horrible, horrible woman.
Go figure that she's expecting a baby, but somehow that wasn't an issue when she agreed to be part of the disinformation, the Ministry of Truth.
Well, one of the best lines in all of this was Peter Doocy asked the new press secretary, Karine Jean-Pierre.
Oh, okay.
And he's like, because they had stated that the Disinformation Board was taking a break because conservative outlets had been telling false things about it. And he's like, so your Disinformation Board was shut down because of disinformation?
They're so mean.
And apparently there's this little snapshot of this MSNBC reporter, and he's just like and it's just oh, even he can't stop laughing. That's hilarious.
He knows. That's right. Screwed up, bro.
But someone else who knows, Danny, talk about
it. All right. So this is from CTV News. Yumi News Sports Illustrated swimsuit cover. Jordan Peterson comments sparked body acceptance conversation. So this is Yumi New. She was featured on a recent swimsuit cover.
This is not Yumi New. This is Yumi New.
Oh, there she is. So this is just somebody talking about it from CTV News.
Well, watch. Have you seen this TikTok?
No, go for it.
All right, I'm going to play the TikTok because she goes nuts.
Jordan, this is giving me major insecure vibes. If you are upset with a beautiful, curvaceous woman on the cover of Sports Illustrated, I think that says more about your insecurities and men's insecurities with confident women than it does about beauty standards. FYI, no one's looking to you for beauty standards. Mm-hmm. And it's really giving off the opposite of BDE energy. I'm just saying. It's
BDE energy?
I don't know what that means.
Who knows? Some TikTok term. All right. So basically what happened here is you have
that's the swimsuit. That's the cover
model. Oh, she looks like a mom. She looks like a mom. Somebody who maybe had a couple kids and, nothing wrong with that. But it's like saying oh, you're a middle-aged man. You're like the athlete of the year.
Yeah.
No, you're not. You're not an athlete. You're the guy trying to play, trying to run track or something like that. It's oh, you're a swimsuit model. I'm like, no, you're just the lady who put on a swimsuit.
Yep.
That doesn't make you a swimsuit model. But so here's what happened. So while many celebrated the diverse range of models featured on Sports Illustrated's recent swimsuit issue, online criticism of the plus-size model Yumi News appearance sparked the conversation around body acceptance. And actually, this was like massive backlash.
Yeah, there was.
Which like, you can always count on Twitter for like that kind of backlash. In a now deleted tweet, Canadian psychology professor Jordan Peterson commented on the news cover photo saying, "Sorry, not beautiful, and no amount of authoritarian tolerance is going to change that." Peterson faced instant backlash over his comments from fans supporting the model, particularly body acceptance advocates. So the story goes on, but basically the gist of the story is Jordan Peterson is very opposed to a lot of the woke garbage that's being propagated on Twitter, on Facebook, on social media generally. And there's been a movement, a very strong movement by the left that basically tries to say, like, that is beautiful. Doesn't matter what your body looks like. Everyone's beautiful. And while like it's popular because it pretends to be compassionate, but what it really does is it makes it okay to be like overweight or even morbidly overweight, and people are celebrated for it. Now, it's not to say that bullying is bad or bullying is good, or that you should bully people.
Bullying is bad.
Yeah, okay. Bullying again is bad, but it's not to say that bullying is good. It just it normalizes something that people really should. Like, if somebody's overweight,
it normalizes something that will have detrimental effects on society. If we are highlighting someone who is, and this woman, even though like she has a pretty face, but her body is not healthy, and idolizing her body as a healthy and beautiful weight and something you should be happy and body positive about is not going to be good for the benefit of society. We have to be saying this is unhealthy. Yes, you should be. You shouldn't be ashamed of who you are, but you should say, I can still be better. I can still be healthier, and this is how I can live the best, healthy, and fulfilled life that I can have.
That's right.
And that kind of body shape is not going to do it.
Amen. All right, next story, Stephen.
Yes, next story. Indeed. I'm sorry for all of these, like, buffering issues. I cannot solve them midstream.
We're gonna have to figure them out later.
And I don't know. Sometimes it just happens that way. Next, monkeypox has Canadian researchers scrambling. Why and how contagious is it? From Global News. Recent cases of monkeypox have researchers in Canada and elsewhere in the world trying to figure out how widespread the virus is. It's rarely found outside of Africa. Potential cases in Europe and North America, including 17 in Montreal. 17.
17.
Health officials and attention. How contagious can it be? Why is it called monkeypox in the first place? Here's what we know. It's basically a disease that was discovered in 1958.
Wow.
And how prevalent? Yes, it has a 10% chance of people dying. It's not that easy to spread, though.
Nope. Like most of these, the kind of diseases usually are.
How contagious is it? In Portugal, 5 cases. Like, it's not common. So, stop freaking out about monkeypox. Mm-hmm. It's not going to become the new COVID.
It's kind of like the freak out that they were trying to do with the, those Asian hornets. That they had, like, Japanese hornets. That they were like, they are
it
scary.
It requires extended contact with another person for them to get sick.
Yep. So it's very easy to quarantine people properly with this.
And unlike COVID, you don't have people who don't have symptoms. They have symptoms.
Go test.
Yep. All right, moving on.
All right, next story. This is from the Post Millennial. Breaking: Canada bans Huawei CTE from telecom systems. The Canadian government has moved to officially ban Huawei and CTE products and services from Canada's telecommunication systems. I have to admit, I was very shocked by this one. I was like, wow, I did not see that coming at all. I thought Canada was like so in bed with China that they were pretty much robbing China's feet. Like, that's how far in bed I thought they were. The Canadian government has moved to officially ban Huawei and its products and services from Canada's telecommunication systems. After hinting at the decision for years, the Canadian government has finally made an official announcement banning Huawei and its services from Canada's telecommunication systems. The moves come amid increased concerns regarding national and cybersecurity. And like I'm all board with this because this has been a problem
We've
all
known
over
that
the world.
Huawei was a big issue for cybersecurity and for leaking information to the Chinese government for a long time.
Yep. So this is from Minister Francois Philippe Champagne. He said, "This follows a full review by our security agencies in consultation with our closest allies. Let me be very clear." By the way, when they say that, they're lying. It's like, be prepared for my lies. We will always protect the safety and security of Canadians, garbage, and we will take any actions necessary to safeguard our telecommunications infrastructure. Lies. Like, these guys are just like the worst. Seriously.
Yeah.
And reactions to the decision were overwhelmingly positive. Again, so this basically just confirms what we basically have been saying for a long time, that China is no friend to Canada or to the West.
Or anybody.
And they have no problem using technology to try to like either spy or to try to undermine like Western democracies. They have been doing for a long time, including with TikTok. So yeah, this is good news.
It is. It is.
Thanks, Steven.
Further good news. Further good news. Actually, this is not good news at all. It's terrible news. Crown prosecutors want to send Tamara Lich back to jail.
What's this from?
This is from the Counter Signal.
Thank you.
So, Crown prosecutors went to send Freedom Convoy organizer Tamara Lich back to jail to await her trial for having the audacity to accept the George Jonas Freedom Award.
How dare she?
So, after spending 18 days in jail and being shackled, being shackled in court after a former Liberal candidate turned judge, Julie Bourgeois, denied her bail, Tamara Lich could return to prison shortly. Crown prosecutors are now arguing that merely stating her intent to receive the Freedom Award in person constitutes breaching her bail conditions. She's currently appealing these bail conditions, arguing they violate her charter freedoms. Well, duh. As per the conditions, you are not to log on to social media or post any messages on social media. You're not allowed to anyone else to post messages on social media on your behalf or indicate your approval for any future protests so long as this release order is in place. You're not to engage in organization or promotion or any anti-COVID-19 mandate activities or Freedom Convoy activities, and you are not to verbally or in writing, financially, or by any other means support anything related to the Freedom Convoy. My goodness, all this for mischief charges.
Yeah, which are completely and totally nonsense.
Yeah, and we talked about that a while.
She doesn't have a truck.
Yep.
They can't make the charges stick, but they want to make her a political person.
Yes.
By the way, what's his name? Pat King and another one of the other guys. He's still in jail. Canada is like John Carpe says from the Justice Center. It's a banana republic with polar bears.
Yeah.
It's basically a country that, like, they have absolutely no regard for justice, for law, for anything like that. They are acting like countries like Pakistan, like Egypt, like Somalia, like Bangladesh, countries that have no problem making political prisoners for anyone who pisses off the government, and the government uses their political power to punish them. Her bail conditions are so over the top ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's impossible to think it be anything else than an attempt by the government to scare people against even attempting to oppose them. It's pretty brutal.
It is.
All right, and we got one final story here from the Post-Millennial. Leftist students violently disrupt Turning Point USA high school meeting in Missouri, destroy school property. So this, I remember seeing the videos from this. This is a whole new level of absolute insanity.
Yeah.
The fact that these people got away with what they did is absolutely mind-blowing to me. So here's what the tagline says. Left-wing student activists vandalized, that's putting it lightly, the TPU USA group's materials and then violently flipped the table over, shattering the glass, a stunt that caused the administration to shut down the group's meeting. So here's what they said. Left-wing students violently disrupted the meeting at Lee's Summit West High School in Missouri on Monday, which caused the administration to shut down the conservative group's event. The disgruntled leftist students forced their way into the school's library where the meeting was being held and used violence and intimidation to instill fear in the conservative group advocating for basic principles that align with the nation's founding, according to Turning Point USA. So basically what happened, I remember this entire thing. The high school students organizing this is a conservative group. They basically had a meeting and they just basically wanted to talk about we're gonna talk about. We want to create this group, and we want to have like a space for conservative students. And I saw the video of the girl basically talking about what we're going to do and talk. There were some very, very aggressively vindictive people like shouting her down while she was trying to present. And then the video didn't actually show the people afterwards, but they basically went in, they vandalized everything, they destroyed school property, then they flipped over tables, they threatened people. Like, the girls there were freaking scared, as they should be. You have violent people doing some horrible things. Now, all of this is horrible. These people, these are criminals at this point. They're not just like misbehaving. This is full on criminality that is just absolutely like horrible. Now, that is bad enough. These poor students, the conservative students, were threatened. They were scared. Their stuff was absolutely destroyed in like the most egregious way. But here's the worst part about this whole thing. This is what the principal, Dr. Chad Herzog, the principal of this high school, here's what he said. He said the school-wide email, which acknowledged the event. However, he said there was no mention of violence and intimidation from the left-wing student. Instead, he said that students that violently disrupted the meeting were just there to voice their concerns. This is absolutely garbage. What happened here, the leftist students, they do like the worst things possible, and the principal covers for them. He basically justifies saying, well, they're just voicing their concerns by like uttering threats and like actually perpetuating violence. And this why conservative students are in such a terrible position in schools, because they basically have not just these lunatics that are opposing them, that are not reasonable, that are not that are not averse to violence, but you actually have the administration that's going to cover for them. Like, you try to be a student in that environment where you could literally be attacked, and the principal and the school staff are going to be like, well, they had a legitimate concern for what happened. Like this is horrible stuff. So it's a sign that the things are going to get worse.
Yes. Because
when you empower the most dangerous, the most aggressive, and the most violent people, and you disempower the people that are actually behaving well, you create the environment for an all-out war.
Yeah.
Because eventually some of the conservative students or conservative people in America are going to say, what? You know what? The hell with it. They're going to get away with this stuff. We're going to get punished. We're done. And people are going to go. I hope it doesn't happen. But the left is creating the ingredients to make this a thing. Yep. And so, yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm with you 100% on that.
He's with me.
Woo. Yeah, I'm usually with you. That's why we're co-hosts. It happens, Danny. It happens.
It does happen. There's a lot.
Anyways, now we are going to talk about, and I'm going to fix this because I moved this out of order. We're going to talk about something that is good. We are going to talk about Jason Kenney.
Mr. Ken.
Mr. Kenney has resigned.
Woohoo!
So, yeah, we found out about this last night when we were doing our games night. Jason Kenney steps down after 51.4% approval in leadership review. He quit as leader of the party on Wednesday night after receiving a slight majority of support in his UCP leadership review. While 51% of the vote passes the constitutional threshold, it is clearly not adequate support to continue on as leader, he told the crowd gathered at Spruce Meadows. I'm sorry, but friends, I truly believe we need to move forward united. We need to put the past behind us, and a large number of our members have asked for an opportunity to clear the air through a leadership election. They announced the results at 6:30 p.m. during a virtual address, and Kenney made his speech immediately after. Before leaving the stage, Kenney congratulated the party on a balanced budget and said he delivered on 90% of his promises as premier. There were gasps in the room when Kenney resigned and told Finance Minister Travis Taves told CTV News that he was surprised. Rick McIver confirmed the UCP will have a caucus meeting on Thursday, and more about the future of the party could be announced afterwards. We knew it could be close and could be controversial, said Conrad Van Heerden, a Constituency Association president. I respect Jason's decision. We need to unite as a party. We need to find a leader that can do that right now because we are divided. So, in response to that, who could replace Jason Kenney as UCP leader? Some possible contenders. So, Kenney secured the support, yada, yada, yada. Who could be likely contestants and possible successors? Mount Royal political scientist Laurie Williams suggested potential replacement successors. And that could include Travis Taves, Jobs, Economy, and Innovation Minister Doug Schweitzer. Expect some outsiders like federal conservative MP Rona Ambrose. But the big headlines are, of course, Brian Jean,
and
Daniel Smith, and Drew Barnes.
My money is on Drew Barnes. I don't know if he'll get it.
I would like Drew Barnes to win, but I think the two main contenders, based on what we see, what we know, two main contenders are going to be Brian Jean and Daniel Smith, both being former heads of the Wild Rose Party.
Yep.
Of those two, clearly prefer Daniel Smith.
Me too.
Daniel Smith is a much more open person. Brian Jean, we're not entirely like he's
a fiscal conservative,
yeah,
but social liberal. He's kind of like Michelle Rempel.
I don't think he's as bad.
He's not quite as bad as her.
He's not as bad as Rempel, but he's not great.
No.
And Daniel Smith is much more socially conservative and fiscally conservative.
Yeah.
And I think that she'd probably do a good job. I've listened to her show quite a few times, and she's very open, and being taken off the establishment media is usually a good sign. So that would be where my support would go, and of course Drew Barnes being very outspoken critic, but Drew Barnes I don't think he has anywhere near the amount of support.
No, but Drew Barnes is like insane, incredibly. He was by far my favorite UCP member
because he
COVID.
actually stood up to Kenny.
Yeah, and he had like very solid things to say about the lockdowns and everything that's happening. I was like, wow, this guy is
this
amazing.
guy knows where it's at, and he knows
the one guy I really hope does not sneak in there because there's quite a few other names in there. Is Jason
Nixon?
He would be he would be every bit as bad.
Yeah,
as Kenny. He's
Kenny's right hand.
Yeah. And he was involved in a lot of the decisions that Kenny made. So I'm like, no, this guy do not put him in.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that we get some, for some little context for those of you who may not know Alberta politics, Alberta basically has two major parties. It has the NDP, and then they have the Conservative Party, the United Conservative. Right now there's two of them. Yeah. With everything that happened in the last 2 years with COVID, the UCP has pissed off to such a massive
degree
their voter base to the point where it was almost guaranteed
that they're
going to lose against the.
And if Kenny had remained in power, and then next year, because I think it's May next year, it's about a year from today, that there would be another provincial election, and they would lose.
Yeah.
But they have they have a chance now if they elect someone who appeals to social conservatives and to the United Conservative Caucus, which you and I'm sure both voted for the UCP in 2019. Yep.
And I had no reason not to.
Oh yeah, we had no reason not to. I think back then I was actually in your riding. I don't think I voted for your riding because I never actually officially listed my address as my old house.
Oh, okay.
Because I didn't want any mail sent there because our mail lady would constantly mix up the addresses. And so I'm like, I don't want any official documents being sent here because they will get lost. And that'll be a big problem.
That would be a big problem.
So I had everything sent to my parents. And so I still had my address as my parents' house, and so I voted in their district. But
so basically what that means for Alberta politics is that the next year is going to be very interesting.
Yes.
Because we have to find a new leader. And depending on who the leader is, we'll see. Like everyone knows NDP would be a disaster for this province.
Yes.
We always knew that the NDP would be worse than whatever Kenny had. But that wasn't an excuse for like the betrayals that Kenny did.
Yeah.
Because he jailed pastors. And, like, don't give me a break. Like, he clearly did it on purpose. Because they went for an injunction to make that. So, we'll see. We'll see what happens. Alberta basically could be in for a rough ride in the next year.
Yeah.
Oh.
I'm just double checking that the feeds are all looking good. Because I've been like,
you always seem to pick the worst time to do that.
Well, I wanted to make sure it's okay. Yep, everything is okay in Facebook. I can hear the captions. I'm just checking the feeds, so we're all good.
All right.
So my fears are assuaded. So that's kind of our interpretation of who could potentially be running the UCP.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll have a further conversation. I'm going to try and potentially talk to other people like Josh Andrus about all this and other people in Alberta politics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
because that'll be a very intriguing conversation.
Mm-hmm.
But we do now have to move on to the douche of the week. So going back from good news to bad news, and then there's this and this person is the douche of the week for a reason.
Yeah, buddy. Straight up.
Okay, the douche of the week. Douche of the week embodied in one flippin' tweet. That's how much. So Joe Lumen. So her tweets: I would rather get an abortion than have a brown child who ends up being adopted by white evangelicals. It's not a kindness to children of the global majority to give them to people who will traumatize them with self and ancestral hatred. An abortion is an act of love.
Ugh.
And then, of course, this person is just like decolonizing faith and spirituality, dismantling oppression and toxic theology. And of course, she says that she is a pastor.
Mm-hmm.
Sure my goodness.
Well, I mean, everyone does need like a false teacher. You need a false teacher to kind of help you get through life and all that.
I just find it hilarious that this person literally like goes through and anybody that quote tweets her, which will be us, just because we're going to she's the douche of the week. We're going to go after it because there's no excuse for this kind of tweet. It's absolutely inexcusable.
Yeah. So basically, talk about like what are the maybe you can kind of like do a little bit of a quick fact check. What is like point out where she went wrong in that tweet?
Where she went wrong.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Just go into it.
Just go into it. Okay, well, let's start. So, she'd rather have an abortion than a brown child who ends up getting adopted by white evangelicals.
Okay, so is that racist? I would call that racist.
Yeah, if you switched any of those races, you would get called a racist faster than Speedy Gonzalez.
Mm-hmm.
And anybody who says that Speedy Gonzalez is racist, it's not. Speedy Gonzalez was actually taken down in 1995, and it was brought back because Hispanics wanted it.
Yeah, Latin community.
Latin community was like, "Why'd you take this away?" And they're like, "Because
we love Speedy.
Inappropriate." And they're like, "We love Speedy Gonzalez. Bring it back."
It's so funny. It's so funny. That's like the white savior complex, right?
I
like
know.
The idea that you have to save other races from racism. There are other races like, get the frick out of my neighborhood. Good.
Yeah.
Go back to your white neighborhood and stop trying to save us.
Yeah.
White.
And like this person, Joe Lewman, tries to make the accusation. It's just like, oh, white evangelicals are proponents of white supremacy, and they are the bane of human existence. White evangelicals, white Christians in general, are not this colonizing presence. Christians are responsible for the majority of aid and assistance and charity worldwide. We have saved so many lives from hunger and starvation.
Mm-hmm.
It's not even funny.
Mm-hmm.
But this individual is just like, oh my gosh, if you are a white person and you adopt someone who's not of the same race as you, then you'll traumatize them with self and ancestral hatred. Okay, examples, because I've never heard of that happening. Every single time I see someone who adopts a child of a different race, they always treat them with love and respect. Always.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a good thing. We should be encouraging adoption. It doesn't matter what race you are if you're adopting somebody, because you're trying to make their life better. And the mother putting the child up for adoption, you're trying to make your child's life better. That should be praised.
Mm-hmm.
I'm totally for adoption. I wish that adoption was cheaper. I wish that there were miles less red tape. I wish it didn't take several years to go through the process. I wish that there wasn't a waiting line for babies. I wish all of those things. The government could help by taking away some of the bureaucracy. Yes. But saying that, oh, if white evangelicals adopt a baby, that's like the bane of human existence? That's a rationale for killing a kid? This woman said that she would abort her own child rather than giving it up to white parents.
This is just like, insanely, like, crazy.
Insanely evil.
Yeah. Do we actually know where, like she says she's a pastor, right?
Yeah.
Do we actually know where she's a pastor or what kind of pastor? I mean, I'm going to go out and guess that she's a United Church pastor, if she's a pastor, according to, her claim or something like that. But I haven't been able to find anything so far.
I know that she says she has a master. I'm going to, of course, show this on the page.
Mm-hmm.
She is a Colombian born and raised pastor who moved to the U.S. to participate in an internship. Then to get her master's degree in ministry and theology from Point Loma Nazarene University. She's also on the board of directors of Elevate School.
Oh, she's at a school. Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
Molding young minds.
Leading church. I don't see where she's a pastor. I just see a bunch
she's
of
just like a self-proclaimed pastor, I'm guessing.
Well, because she has this master's of ministry and theology, even though she's absolutely hopeless at theology.
Mm-hmm.
My goodness, this person.
I know, it's pretty crazy. If you can look her up on Facebook, I saw something that's like on her Facebook profile. It's two ends. That's maybe why it's not coming up.
You still got it.
Okay. So I was looking at her Facebook profile here. Like, look at the first post that she puts there. Parents who need to use money, belonging, or work in order to coerce their kids to be Christians. If you claim to be a Christian pastor, you're like parents who are trying to push their religion on their children. How dare you? I'm like, how are you like give me a break. This is the epitome of a non-Christian mindset. Like, no Christian pastor would say it's a bad thing to teach your children about your faith, and it's a bad thing that if they become Christians because of your influence. Like, no Christian pastor would say that. This is why a lot of like the church and Christianity has been so diluted that any person can claim to be a religion pastor or a Christian leader and say things like this and never get called out. It's
absolutely
crazy. Can you imagine this kind of person? It's
nonsense.
You're using your religion to abuse your own children. My gosh,
raising your children in the faith which you yourself practice is not abusive, woman.
Wow. Can you believe this person? Like, this is crazy.
It's hard. Like, I found out about this person primarily because Matt Walsh covered him on his show, and I was just like, "Hokey Dinah, you're insane."
Yeah. Look at the next post, the one underneath that. So this post is about Mother's Day. Look what she says about Mother's Day. And by the way, oh wait,
no, that's not about Mother's Day.
Where's it? Oh, I went down a little bit too far.
You went down so far.
Go to that. Go down to the one about Mother's Day.
Where's this one?
There. Okay.
I hate Mother's Day. I rant against it every year, but it feels more obnoxious than ever. Top of the things that there, up top of all the things that there are to hate about this absurd holiday, we're also going to go to a brunch and pretend like the rights of people who can become pregnant aren't being stripped. Oh, I can't kill my baby.
Oh yeah.
How dystopian of us for a change.
Dystopian.
It's the absurdity of it all that annoys me the most. Spending mother on things nobody needs. Pretending we care about mothers while individual states and the whole of the United States actively move to ensure we have less rights.
Jeez.
Oh my gosh. And then she just keeps on ranting.
So
Happy Mother. May you all burn some stuff down soon.
Wow. Very Christian attitude right there. Super Christian.
Super Christian to incite others to violence. Because people are turning away from your genocidal, and I'm going to be completely frank here, bullshit.
This woman is a perfect example. This is basically a Jezebel.
Yeah.
For anybody who knows, and of course, as we're talking about, like she's claiming to be a pastor. So Jezebel is a character in the Bible. She was married to King Ahab of Israel, and she was considered to be like Ahab was considered to be one of the most evil kings in her northern kingdom, and his wife was supposed to be was so evil that she became a archetype of that kind of behavior, of that kind of sexual, moral, immorality, like degeneracy, to the point where in the Book of Revelation she was used as a name to refer to people that did the same thing that she did. This woman here is. It's a perfect example of a false teacher or a false prophet that are always warned about in the Bible. And here she is saying all sorts of crazy, over-the-top profanities and hiding behind the title of a Christian teacher or whatever. This lady falls squarely into the umbrella of progressive Christianity, which is not Christian.
It is
progressive
heresy.
Christianity. It is full heresy. Anybody who believes that progressive Christians are some form of Christians, you haven't studied it well. I recommend go look up Mike Winger. Go look up Alyssa Childers. Go look up The Beat with I think it's Michael Parr. Go look at them. They will explain to you the false and the completely non-Christian beliefs of progressive Christianity. But so any good Christian knows this woman is not what she claims to be. But even more than that, this woman has been so infected with the modern woke progressive mindset that she not only believes her own nonsense, but she actively fights anybody who doesn't. This is an example of a woman who has lost all sense of reality, and she basically has convinced herself that she alone can tell other people what is right and what is wrong. This woman has been completely and totally deceived by Satan, and the things that she said are so evil that they're not. I think a lot of people would even on the left would probably be like, "Whoa, hold on, that's a little too far for me."
Yeah,
quite a few people I think no. The things you're saying are one step too far, 10 steps too far, 100 steps too far. This is a truly horrible human being who portrays herself. I mean, you see her profile picture.
She portrays herself as this bastion and hero for women and hero for minorities because she's protecting them from white evangelical supremacy. No. We're not advocating for white supremacy because normal Christians believe in a meritocracy that isn't dependent on race. But the left, the progressives, they want to push the notion that we are racists, that we are misogynists, that we are all these things because they can't defend their own ideals theologically. And so they're going to use these ad hominem attacks that completely go after us for no reason whatsoever because they want to be popular. They are rejecting the commands of Scripture. They are rejecting the commands of Christ because they want public approval. They want the accolades. They want the celebration. Because they know, or at least they should know, this person is a master's in theology after all. They know that Christ himself says, we will not be loved. We will not be loved by the world. Christ was hated by the world. The commands of Scripture rub some people the wrong way because it goes against their own human nature and their nature of sin. It goes against all of our natures of sin. That's why we have to choose not to sin. That's why we as Christians should not be accepting of sin. We should not be accepting of the genocide, the evil of abortion, the abomination, the twisting of love that is the LGBTQ movement, the manipulation of children that they have adopted with the groomer movement. All of these things, society has chosen to hate us for them. But that doesn't mean we should turn in. That doesn't mean we should accept what they're teaching and say, we're sorry, the Bible has made us all to be these sheep-loving rulers. No. It means we need to take a stand for our faith, and we need to be strong and courageous. Because we know we're not going to be loved, but we know that there is a reward that is not on this earth. And that's what we need to be fighting for.
That's a good speech, Stephen. I like it. You sly dog.
I can have a good speech once in a while. You've got me monologuing. I have one good monologue once in a while.
That was good. I felt that here, right here in that deep spot, in my heart. Right there. I feel full.
All right. Feel full, but hopefully this woman will be convicted by our rebuke. And that is why she is this week, unequivocally, the douche of the week. All right. Thank you for everybody who has been watching the live stream, a couple of our comments. Sorry about the connection issues. I don't know what's been going on today. I don't really have too much control over it once the stream starts. All I do is basically just check that my connection is good before the show starts, and my connection looked good, so okay.
Yeah, we'll have to figure it out.
Yeah, we'll have to figure it out. Not sure why. Last week there was 0 issues whatsoever. This week we had like 10% of our show dropped frames.
Yeah.
So, utter craziness.
It's been crazy, yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, we do what we can. If you're following us on our video platforms, once I post the recording of this, which will be on Monday night, because I'm going camping over the weekend with my in-laws. So if you're following us, then share, comment, subscribe on BitChute, YouTube, and Rumble. If you're following us on our text platforms, such as Twitter, Gitter, Parler, and Facebook, comment, tell us your questions, ask us your comments. I did that in the proper order, but yes.
Yeah, you've definitely been memorizing that. That's good.
I did that even in the improper order. But let us know how we're doing. And of course, we're going to try and do some marketing. So if you have any suggestions on how to do some marketing, on the best ways to do marketing, on suggestions, we are all ears. Let us know, throw them at us.
That's right.
So, and then of course, if you're listening or watching on any podcast platform, because now they support video.
Oh, wow.
I know. Very nifty.
Know. Very cool.
Then check us out and share this content with your friends. And sharing is something you should be doing regardless of what platform that you are on. So, Danny, sign us out.
So, hi, I'm Danny. I'm Senior Sweetness, and that's Salty Steve over there. And we're the Shrewd Dudes. Always like to remind you, why be rude when you can be shrewd?
All right, everybody. We shall see you on next Tuesday. I hope everybody in Canada has a long weekend, because it's a long weekend in Canada. Next weekend is a long weekend in the States.
Yep.
So enjoy your long weekend. Enjoy time with your family, your friends.
Amen.
And we shall see you on Tuesday Newsday. Until then, as always, from here at the Shrewd Dudes Podcast, God bless.